नमस्कार दोस्तों, मेरा नाम गौरव है। गौravdelhirav मेरा यूट्यूब चैनल है। कृपया सब्सक्राइब करें दोस्तों, ये सब्सक्राइब का बटन दबाएं, साथ में बेल आइकन को क्लिक करना ना भूलें।
Also known as representative office, can undertake only liaison activities. That is, it can act as a channel of communication between head office abroad and parties in India. It is not allowed to undertake any business activity in India and cannot earn any income in India. Application to be made to AD Category I Bank under delegated powers for establishing LO in India. Prior approval of RBI, if A. The applicant is a citizen of or is registered/incorporated in Pakistan. B. The applicant is a citizen of or is registered/incorporated in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Iran, China, Hong Kong or Macau, and the application is for opening the boat/lo/po in Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast Region and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. C. The principal business of the applicant falls in the four sectors, namely defense, telecom, private security and information and broadcasting. In the case of proposal for opening the PO relating to defense sector, no separate reference or approval of Government of India shall be required if the said non-resident applicant has been awarded the contract by/entered into an agreement with Ministry of Defence or Service Headquarters or Defence Public Sector undertakings. No separate approval is required from Reserve Bank of India for such cases only. D. The applicant is a non-government organization, NGO, non-profit organization, body/agency/department of a foreign government. Eligibility criteria for LO: a profit-making track record during the immediately preceding 3 financial years in the home country and net worth of not less than $50,000 or its equivalent. An applicant that is not financially sound and is a subsidiary of another company may submit a letter of comfort LOC Annex A from its parent/group company, subject to the condition that the parent/group company satisfies the prescribed criteria for net worth and profit. Procedure for applying 1. Form FNC Annex B to a designated AD category, I Bank, i.e. an AD category, I Bank identified by the applicant with whom they intend to pursue banking relations, along with the prescribed documents mentioned in the form and the LOC, wherever applicable. 2. The AD category I Bank shall, after exercising due diligence in respect of the applicant's background, and satisfying itself as regards adherence to the eligibility criteria for establishing boat/lo/po, antecedents of the promoter, nature and location of activity of the applicant, sources of funds, etc., and compliance with the extant KYC norms, grant approval to the foreign entity for establishing boat/lo/po in India. 3. However, before issuing the approval letter to the applicant, the AD category I Bank shall forward a copy of the Form FNC along with the details of the approval proposed to be granted by it to the General Manager, Reserve Bank of India, Co-Cell, New Delhi, for allotment of unique identification number UIN to each boat/lo. After receipt of the UIN from the Reserve Bank, the AD category I Bank shall issue the approval letter to the non-resident entity for establishing boat/lo in India. 4. The validity period of a LO is generally for 3 years, except in the case of non-banking finance companies and BFCs and those entities engaged in construction and development sectors, for whom the validity period is 2 years only. 5. An applicant that has received a permission for setting up of a boat/lo/po shall inform the designated AD category I Bank as to the date on which the boat/lo/po has been set up. The AD category I Bank in turn shall inform Reserve Bank accordingly. In case an approval granted by the AD Bank has either been surrendered by the applicant or has expired without any boat/lo/po being set up, the AD category I Bank shall inform RBI accordingly. 6. The approval granted by the AD category I Bank should include a proviso to the effect that in case the boat/lo/po for which approval has been granted is not opened within 6 months from the date of the approval letter, the approval shall lapse. In cases where the non-resident entity is not able to open the office within the stipulated time frame due to reasons beyond its control, the AD category I Bank may consider granting extension of time for a further period of 6 months for setting up the office. Any further extension of time shall require the prior approval of Reserve Bank of India in this regard. 7. All applications for establishing the boat/lo in India by foreign banks and insurance companies will be directly received and examined by the Department of Banking Regulation (DBR), Reserve Bank of India, Central Office and the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority (IRDA) respectively. No UIN for such representative offices is required from the Foreign Exchange Department, Reserve Bank of India. Opening of bank account by low and low may approach the designated 80 category I bank in India to open an account to receive remittances from its head office outside India. It may be noted that low shall not maintain more than one bank account at any given time without the prior permission of Reserve Bank of India. The permitted credits and debits to the account shall be A. Credits 1. Funds received from head office through normal banking channels for meeting the expenses of the office. 2. Refund of security deposits paid from Low's account to or directly by the head office through normal banking channels. 3. Refund of taxes, duties etc., received from tax authorities, paid from Low's bank account. 4. Sale proceeds of assets of the loan. The debits only for meeting the local expenses of the office. Annual Activity Certificate by Low. The Annual Activity Certificate AAC as at the end of March 31st each year along with the required documents needs to be submitted by the following: A. In case of a sole load, by the low concerned. B. In case of multiple loss, a combined AAC in respect of all the offices in India by the nodal office of the loss. The low needs to submit the AAC to the designated 80 category I bank as well as Director General of Income Tax International Taxation New Delhi. II. The designated 80 category I bank shall scrutinize the AACs and ensure that the activities undertaken by the low are being carried out in accordance with the terms and conditions of the approval given. In the event of any adverse findings reported by the auditor or noticed by the designated 80 category I bank, the same should immediately be reported to the General Manager, Reserve Bank of India, Co-Cell, New Delhi, along with a copy of the AAC and their comments thereon. Extension of validity period of the approval of loan requests for extension of time for loss may be submitted before the expiry of the validity of the approval, to the 80 category I bank concerned under whose jurisdiction the low/nodal office is located. The designated 80 category I bank may extend the validity period of loan/S for a period of 3 years from the date of expiry of the original approval/extension granted if the applicant has complied with the following conditions and the application is otherwise in order. 8. The low should have submitted the annual activity certificates for the previous years and B. The account of the low maintained with the designated 80 category I bank is being operated in accordance with the terms and conditions stipulated in the approval letter. Such extension has to be granted as expeditiously as possible and in any case not later than 1 month from the receipt of the request under intimation to the General Manager, Reserve Bank of India, Co-Cell, New Delhi, quoting the reference number of the original approval letter and the UIN. Reserve Bank shall update the information on its website immediately. II. Further, entities engaged in construction and development sectors and non-banking finance companies are permitted to open a liaison office for 2 years only. No further extension would be considered for liaison offices of entities which are non-banking finance companies and those engaged in construction and development sectors excluding infrastructure development companies. Upon expiry of the validity period, the offices shall have to either close down or be converted into a joint venture/wholly owned subsidiary in conformity with the extant foreign direct investment policy. Application for additional offices and activities I requests for establishing additional loss may be submitted to the 80 category I bank in a fresh FNC form. However, the documents mentioned in Form FNC need not be resubmitted, if there are no changes to the documents already submitted earlier. 8. If the number of offices exceeds 4 i.e. 1 low in each zone viz. East, West, North and South, the applicant has to justify the need for additional office/S and it shall require prior approval of RBI. B. The applicant may identify one of its offices in India as the nodal office, which will coordinate the activities of all of its offices in India. C. Whenever the existing low is shifting to another city in India, prior approval from the 80 category I bank is required. However, no permission is required if the low/bow is shifted to another place in the same city subject to the condition that the new address is intimated to the designated 80 category I bank. Changes in the postal address may be intimated to the Co-Cell, New Delhi by the 80 category I bank that was the earliest. II. Requests for undertaking activities in addition to what has been permitted initially Annex C by Reserve Bank of India/80 category I bank may be submitted by the applicant to the Reserve Bank through the designated 80 category I bank justifying the need. Extension of fund and non-fund based facilities 80 Category I Bank make, based on their business prudence, board-approved policy and compliance to extant rules/regulations stipulated by DBR. RBI extend fund/non-fund based facilities to boss closure of loan I requests for closure of the loan and allowing the remittance of winding up proceeds of loan may be submitted to the designated 80 Category I Bank by the boat/low/PO or their nodal office, as the case may be. The application for winding up may be submitted along with the following documents: a copy of the Reserve Bank S/80 Category I Bank's approval for establishing the loan, the auditor's certificate, indicating the manner in which the remittable amount has been arrived at and supported by a statement of assets and liabilities of the applicant and indicating the manner of disposal of assets, confirming that all liabilities in India including arrears of gratuity and other benefits to employees, etc. of the office have been either fully met or adequately provided for, and confirming that no income accruing from sources outside India including proceeds of exports has remained unrepatriated to India. C. Confirmation from the applicant/parent company that no legal proceedings in any court in India are pending against the loan and there is no legal impediment to the remittance. D. A report from the Registrar of Companies regarding compliance with the provisions of the Companies Act, 2013, in case of winding up of the loan in India, wherever applicable. E. The designated 80 Category I Banks has to ensure that the loan had filed their respective AACs. F. Any other document/S, specified by Reserve Bank of India/80 Category I Bank while granting approval. Designated 80 Category I Bank may allow remittance of winding up proceeds in respect of offices of banks and insurance companies, after obtaining copies of permission of closure from the sectoral regulators along with the documents mentioned above. Transfer of assets of loan proposals for transfer of assets may be considered by the 80 Category I Bank only from loss/or adhering to the operational guidelines such as submission of AACs up to the current financial year at regular annual intervals with copies endorsed to DGIT International Taxation. Have obtained PAN from ID authorities and have got registered with ROC under the Companies Act 2013, if necessary. Also, transfer of assets by way of sale to the JV/WOs be allowed by 80 Category I Bank only when the non-resident entity intends to close their loan operations in India. The certificate is to be submitted from the statutory auditor furnishing details of assets to be transferred indicating their date of acquisition, original price, depreciation till date, present book value or written down value WDV value and sale consideration to be obtained. Statutory auditor should also confirm that the assets were not revalued after their initial acquisition. The sale consideration should not be more than the book value in each case. The assets should have been acquired by the loan from inward remittances and no intangible assets such as goodwill, pre-operative expenses should be included. No revenue expenses such as leasehold improvements incurred by the loan can be capitalized and transferred to JV/WOs. 80 Category I Bank must ensure payment of all applicable taxes while permitting transfer of assets. The credits to the bank accounts of loan on account of such transfer of assets will be treated as permissible credits. VI. Donation by loan of old furniture, vehicles, computers and other office items etc. to NGOs or other not-for-profit organizations may be permitted by the 80 Category I Banks after satisfying itself about the bona fides of the transaction. Permitted activities for a liaison office in India of a person resident outside India representing the parent company/group companies in India. Promoting export/import from/to India. Promoting technical/financial collaborations between parent/group companies and companies in India. Acting as a communication channel between the parent company and Indian companies. Guidance note: boat/low/po or any other place of business by whatever name called is required to register with the Registrar of Companies ROCs once it establishes a place of business in India if such registration is required under the Companies Act, 2013. The boss/loss shall obtain permanent account number PAN from the income tax authorities on setting up of their office in India and report same in the AACs. The existing PAN and bank accounts can be continued when a loan is permitted to upgrade into a BO. Each BO/LO/PO are required to transact through one designated AD category I bank only, who shall be responsible for the due diligence and KYC norms of the BO/LO/PO. BO/LO/PO, present in multiple locations, are required to transact through their designated AD. However, the AD of the nodal office is required to comply with all the reporting norms. The BO/LO/PO can change their existing AD category I bank subject to both the AD banks giving consent in writing for the transfer and the transferring AD bank confirming submission of all AACs and absence of any adverse features when conducting the account by the BO/LO/PO. The acquisition of property by BO/PO shall be governed by the guidelines issued under Foreign Exchange Management Acquisition and Transfer of Immovable Property Outside India Regulations. The II, as per Section 6(3)(h) of the Foreign Exchange Management Act, 1999, BOS/LOS/POS have general permission to carry out permitted/incidental activities from leased property subject to lease period not exceeding 5 years. The II AD category I bank can allow term deposit account for a period not exceeding 6 months in favor of a BO/LO/PO of a person resident outside India, provided the bank is satisfied that the term deposit is out of temporary surplus funds and the BO/LO/PO furnishes an undertaking that the maturity proceeds of the term deposit will be utilized for their business in India within 3 months of maturity. However, such facility may not be extended to shipping/airline companies. X. In case the BO/LO has been established and continues to exist without approval of the Reserve Bank, such BO/LO may approach their AD category I bank to regularize their offices under FEMA 1999, even if permission of Reserve Bank was not required as per the regulations existing at the time of setting up of the office. Such cases may be brought to the notice of Reserve Bank immediately for allotment of UIN. The foreign entities who may have established lower BO with the permission from the Government of India in a pre-FEMA period shall also approach their AD category I bank with a copy of the said approval for allotment of a UIN by the Reserve Bank. Exchange in the name of the existing BO/BO may be permitted by the AD category I bank only if the non-resident entity changes its name without change in ownership and if the application to this effect is received with the board resolution for change of name and documents/certificate from ROC. India showing change of name. The change in name of the BO/LO should be reported to Federal Co-Cell, New Delhi, where change in name is requested on account of acquisitions or mergers of foreign entities involving change in ownership. The acquired entity or new entity is required to apply afresh by closing the existing entity. Foreign entities should note that the approvals are given by the Reserve Bank/AD category I bank after detailed scrutiny as per laid down guidelines and FDI policies, and hence the approvals given to one foreign entity is not transferable to another foreign entity. XI. Change in the top management or CEO/MD/CMD etc. of the BO/LO does not require prior approval from the Reserve Bank/AD category I bank. However, AD category I bank should be intimated about the same